Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, Kyle C and Harold B. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. There will be no video from me tomorrow on Friday. I am in one of my best friend's weddings and we have festivities starting early tomorrow. Also, to everyone that took a moment yesterday to share some feedback about rear wheel drive Teslas in the snow, just wanted to say thank you. I really appreciate it. And this rarely happens, but it does happen. Sometimes there's really exciting news that happens after I've already edited and exported my video. So when that happens, sometimes I will put some news in the pinned comment. Just wanted to let everybody, especially those of you that watch on the TV, know if you see something in the title and don't see it in the video, check the pinned comment. I don't love doing it, but when the news is this good, albeit unconfirmed, sometimes you just have to make a play. One last thing, a few of you shared some counterpoints on the copper bit from yesterday, and thank you for those of you that did. A few points to add to the conversation. Tesla moving from 12 to 48 volt architecture will only reduce copper in the wiring of that system. So it's not necessarily going to remove any copper from the other components of the car like the motors, batteries, inverters, etc. As HEC pointed out, to know the exact savings here for Tesla, we would need to know the distribution of the copper use across all of those systems. So Elon's quote, "We need only about 25% as much copper in the car as would be needed for a 12 volt battery," should most likely be interpreted as 25% less copper only for the wiring of the low voltage system, not implying a reduction in copper use of Tesla's batteries and motors. The takeaway, perhaps the overall copper use is not dropped by 75%, but it will still be a significant reduction nonetheless, leading to billions in savings. Interesting anecdote from Gary Black. He talked to his Tesla sales contact in Chicago this morning. Model Y rear-wheel drive orders are huge. Most buyers don't care about the 0 to 60 of 6.6 seconds. The big questions are about range, how long it takes to charge, the cost of that charging, and then maintenance costs. He said he gets almost no questions about autonomy, which really is not that surprising. In my experience, the people that know about it are pretty plugged into the community, and then everybody else is still out to lunch. I wanted to mention this because I've seen some people saying that this is going to destroy margins for the Model Y, and while it certainly may have a negative impact, we have to remember there are a lot of things at play. But I do think this will open up the market to new people that were actually priced out before. So yes, maybe a small percentage of buyers that were considering a long range or performance Model Y may jump down, but I think more so it'll be a case of this opens it up to a lower segment of the market, meaning an entirely new segment of buyers that weren't even considering a Model Y before that now may be reaching up because this is within their possibilities. Just keep in mind when it comes to the margins, we really don't know what they would be on this vehicle. We don't know what type of battery pack they're using, we don't know what motors they're using, and that list goes on and on. And while that Cybertruck news from yesterday is still unconfirmed, what's not unconfirmed is that Tesla was doing some professional shooting of the Cybertruck at Starbase, presumably for the launch event. The chatter right now is it may not be until November. What's that they say though? The best things in life are worth waiting for? Relax, I'm not saying a car is the best thing in life. It was somewhat tongue-in-cheek. From Reuters, Tesla is now making some requests of the Mexican government ahead of factory construction in Nuevo Leon. Tesla has asked for infrastructure to be built on site, and Tesla and Nuevo Leon's government are in the early stages of detailing investments and infrastructure needed. Tesla has requested the state build an electric energy substation as well as electric lines to where it will build the plant. The state said given the growth that is expected from this factory, they'll also need to invest in roads, schools, health centers, and basic services. Tesla also plans to build a railway yard to be operated by a third party and railroad tracks to its properties. Tesla shifting gears to starting the next-gen production and design in Giga, Texas rather than here seems so wise now because it really seems like Nuevo Leon is starting from complete scratch. From Bloomberg, or Doomberg as SMR may say, this was actually a super positive article on Tesla. We already know most of this. I did want to highlight though, after 18 months of F-150 Lightning beginning sales, it only amounts to 3% of traditional F-Series sales. Given the fact that GM has only sold 18 of their Silverado truck and the Ram 1500 EV truck is still probably a year away, this leaves the pickup EV market wide open right ahead of the Cybertruck launch. This is such a beautiful chart looking at Tesla's cumulative market share going back to 2012. Starting around 2019 though, it has essentially held steady at 60%, when for the last 5 to 10 years we've heard nothing but this number was supposed to be plummeting down as all of the competition comes to the market. And yes, eventually, hopefully this number does come down. That would just mean that there are more EVs available to the consumer. But the fact that Tesla has kept over 60% of the US EV market share for this long tells you everything you need to know. Bank of America analysts estimated in June that Tesla's share of the US EV market will drop to 18% by 2026. We'll see. The prediction tracker gets another entry. I won't lie, I was a bit disappointed with some of this news. We got some new images of the Model Y slight refresh from China. Under the covers, you have a darker wheel, but if you take a closer look at the interior, specifically the ambient lighting, you'll note that it's only on the dash. It does not wrap around the doors. Here's a very brief video showing what I was talking about. It's only on the dash, straight across, nothing on the doors. Maybe it's just me, but personally, definitely don't love this. This does make it feel a little cheaper in my opinion. I'm a sucker for interior ambiance, so maybe it's just me, but let me know what you think. Last week, we already debunked that FUD article about Giga Berlin having a very high number of accidents and serious ones at the factory. But just in case you don't yet trust me, we have the Brandenburg authorities confirming there is no unusual amount of accidents at Giga Berlin. The health minister chimed in saying there's no company or major construction site in all of Brandenburg that's been inspected more intensively and more frequently than Giga Berlin. She said, "We treat Giga Berlin just like every other company." A department head said during the construction phase, the Tesla plant was inspected weekly, and in the meantime, inspections take place every 2 weeks. There are ad hoc inspections every 6 to 8 weeks without notice. In 2021, there were a total of 48 inspections at Tesla, 40 last year and 19 so far this year. Compared with other car manufacturers, there is no conspicuous accumulation of occupational accidents at Tesla. If you've been keeping up with Electrified videos, you would have known this was mostly debunked last week. Speaking of last week, you may recall the video on Friday. We saw this Reddit post of Hyundais and Kias at a supercharging location. Well, 1 week later, now it's official, Hyundai is adopting the NACS. In the US, all new or refreshed Hyundai EVs will come exclusively with a NACS port starting Q4 2024. Canada will follow in the first half of 2025. Again, they shared that 12,000 number that they'll have access to, leaving out a significant portion of Tesla's supercharging network in North America. Confusingly, they said this will fully support the ultra-fast charging speeds on Hyundai's eGMP platform. More on that shortly. Owners of existing and future Hyundai EVs with a current CCS will have access to the network starting Q1 2025. Hyundai will offer an adapter to these customers. Hyundai will also make adapters available to charge NACS-equipped vehicles at CCS locations. Hyundai is one of those 6 automakers that joined together to build out their own nationwide charging network that's supposed to have 30,000 chargers, the first of which are set to open summer 2024 and Canada at a later stage. Apparently, Hyundai does not have any Photoshop experts on their marketing team because, as Drive Tesla pointed out, they actually used black tape and left it for their promotional photo shoot. There are still plenty of questions on what types of speed these Hyundai Kia vehicles will be able to get on Tesla's superchargers, specifically on the V3 variants. That's because all of Tesla's V3 network is actually based on a 400-volt architecture. Now, V4 is future-proofed and that shouldn't be a problem, but because Hyundai and Kia use an 800-volt architecture, they may only be able to get charging speeds of around 100 kilowatts on Tesla's V3 stalls. So the way I understand this, in order for those cars to use Tesla's V3 stalls, that 400 volts has to be stepped up to 800 volts. That means these Hyundai cars will use their drive inverter to convert it, but that inverter has a capacity limit of around 100 kilowatts. There have also been reports that that conversion isn't super reliable in the United States, maybe because Hyundai assumed that all high-power chargers in the US would support 800 volts. Hopefully there's a software update Hyundai can implement so that their cars deal better with these 400-volt Tesla V3 chargers. The only remaining NACS dominoes yet to fall: Volkswagen, Stellantis, Lucid, Toyota, BMW, Subaru, and Mazda. This past week, I was reading a paper from the Journal of Preventive Medicine, as one does, and I wanted to pass along some findings. Nutritional deficiency can lead to an increased risk of several diseases like cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. Micronutrient deficiencies lead to intellectual impairment, poor growth, perinatal complications, and degenerative diseases. Preventing macro and micronutrient deficiency is crucial, and this could be achieved through supplementation and food-based approaches. Now, most times when I share AG1, the sponsor of this episode, at least one person chimes in saying how unhealthy it is, always though with no explanation. Now yes, AG1 compared to whole foods sourced well and uncorrupted, AG1 is inferior. But given that 99 out of 100 people don't come close to actually eating a perfectly balanced diet, myself included, I've found AG1 to be an awesome stopgap. And if you think Huberman and Lex Friedman are endorsing products out here willy-nilly, then I have a bridge to sell you. Even if you don't ever give AG1 a chance, I still hope I can encourage you to take care of your body if you've been struggling with it to date. And in the event you're interested in AG1, you can go get the freebies on the screen at drinkag1.com/electrified, linked below. In case you saw the news yesterday that some of the Tesla referral rewards were being removed, like Cybertruck and Model 3 raffles, according to Sawyer, they're now back. It could have just been a bug from yesterday, so check your app if you're interested. Troy Teslike is making the statement Tesla has unwound the quarterly delivery wave in Europe. In Q2 last year, 88% of deliveries happened in the third month of the quarter. This has now dropped to 39% in Q3 this year. I don't think we should ever expect a perfect 33% each month for the quarter, but Tesla's getting pretty close. This would be another easy talking point for any Tesla bull on CNBC when people bring up Tesla's excessive inventory numbers. Because yes, unwinding this wave means that there are more Tesla vehicles on ships at the end of each quarter. It's pretty funny, we started the Tesla year with some narratives that their demand in Europe was terrible. Well, fast forward to now, and from Troy Teslike, Europe is expected to be Tesla's fastest growing market when we're looking at 23 versus 2022. You can see the context for Tesla's registrations in Europe. It passed the number for all of 2022 back in August 2023. Just a week or two ago, we had the information reporting that GM's new CTO was saying that he thought the company needed to make their own batteries, hire a team, do their own Tesla 4680 type of thing. My guess is that GM didn't really like that idea, and 1 month later, and now he quits. He's now leaving the job after 1 month according to an internal memo. His departure comes 1 week after that profile where he described a plan to aggressively expand the company's work in batteries, creating a dream team of battery scientists, and to manufacture batteries from the ground up. For now, Anir von Kummer, the managing director for GM Ventures, will step in as their interim CTO. I won't speculate too much here, but I'd be pretty comfortable saying I don't think GM will be making its own batteries in-house anytime soon. Just a quick blurb from Clean Energy Revolution. They were talking about the Mach-E and the Model Y in Australia, and when asked about the possibility of the Mustang Mach-E challenging the Model Y in terms of sales, a Ford spokesperson told reporters, "That's not necessarily our target." Continuing, "The fact that the Mach-E is Ford's first fully electric passenger vehicle is an achievement in itself." I don't know who this Ford spokesperson was, but it gives you the sense of how Ford is thinking. They're kind of celebrating just having an EV for sale, compared to Tesla, who has been sprinting to essentially dominate the entire market and transition the entire world to sustainable energy. kind of a different perspective. Look, in fairness, it's really not fair to expect the Mach-E to compete with the Model Y, as Ford is very new to electric vehicles. Despite that though, I still thought this latter comment was pretty interesting insight. GM itself is now saying that the UAW strike could be costing them $200 million in the third quarter. This based on lost vehicle production from 2 of the 3 GM assembly plants affected by the strike. Bear in mind, the strikes were only taking place for about 2 weeks in the third quarter. When GM builds a vehicle and ships it to a dealer, that's when GM records the revenue associated with the production of the vehicle. If you're new to the Tesla and EV story, this is a key distinction between how Tesla runs business and how most of Legacy Auto does. Legacy Auto can unload its manufactured vehicles to dealers and let them deal with actually selling them to end customers. Tesla does it directly. So with the plants down, all the revenue and profit from those vehicles never happens, so that's how it figures the cost. Dan Ives said $200 million is digestible for GM, but if this lasts another 2 or 3 weeks, it could be a backbreaker for the fourth quarter and delay 2024 EV production. If at any point the pickup trucks or the SUVs are targeted by the UAW, and the chances of that get higher the longest this draws out, this could easily jump into the billions. We don't really get any details on this offer, but today GM has made a new counteroffer to the UAW. The only update we get, a source familiar with the talk said there had been movement in a few key areas. Sean Fain is planning an update on the status of the talks with the Detroit 3 at 2 p.m. Eastern on Friday. The word is the UAW and Ford have narrowed their differences on pay increases after a new offer from Ford amid really active talks. We also have around 30% of suppliers saying that they've had to lay off workers due to the strikes. This Auto Trade Association, which represents more than 1,000 companies in the US, surveyed its OEM suppliers, and they said more than 60% expect to start layoffs by mid-October. They found that 70% of the automotive suppliers have concerns about their sub-suppliers' ongoing financial viability. Polestar delivered 13,900 vehicles in Q3, up 50% compared to last year, with sales of the higher-priced upgraded Polestar 2 contributing to a strong margin improvement. They now have around 41,700 deliveries in the first 9 months of the year, up 37% compared to last year. They did reconfirm their guidance of between 60 to 70,000 vehicles this year. Ingenloth said, "We've delivered a strong quarter and expect higher margins for the rest of the year as we continue to prioritize value over volume in our business." That all sounds good. However, if you go back to quarter 2, you will see that they actually delivered more vehicles, 15.7 thousand to be exact. So Q3 was down slightly over Q2. Previously, we heard that Cadillac may re-enter the European market, but only with electric vehicles. That time has come. They'll be starting with the Cadillac Lyriq. Deliveries of this vehicle will start over there in the first half of 2024. Over the next 2 years, they plan to bring this model to Sweden, France, and 3 other European countries. This model will have 329 miles of range and cost just shy of $90,000 US. GM will sell these EVs direct to European consumers via websites and flagship stores, but they'll be made in Spring Hill, Tennessee in the United States. GM does plan to offer a complete range of fully electric models in Europe by the end of the decade. Back to the United States, the Lyriq sold 3,018 in Q3, doubling their Q2 figures, so we'll see if they can continue that momentum in the United States. Toyota has signed a supply agreement for a battery deal with LG for a new battery factory in Michigan, costing around $3 billion. However, this is not going to be a joint venture like LG has been doing with GM. LG will supply Toyota with 20 gigawatt hours of high nickel NCMA battery modules annually starting in 2025, made in Michigan. LG will invest about $3 billion into that facility for new production lines for cells and modules exclusively for Toyota. The completion of these lines is expected in 2025. The battery modules made on the new lines will be shipped to Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky, where they'll be assembled into battery packs and installed in EVs. This deal also marks a departure for LG because their deals are generally arranged as joint ventures with automakers. This deal with Toyota is LG's largest single supply agreement secured outside of a joint venture. Vinfast, one of the more confounding EV companies out there right now, just released its financial results for the first time as a public company, and they lost $527 million for the quarter. Maybe more interesting though, this GSM Green and Smart Mobility joint stock, a Vietnamese taxi company, has bought 7,000 of the 19,000 vehicles VinFast has sold to date. VinFast is now expecting its first vehicles to reach Europe in the fourth quarter. Lucid ended the day down about 5% today after they just released their most affordable Air sedan, the Pure, starting at $77.4 thousand with 410 miles of range. This vehicle is rear-wheel drive, and given that it's a sedan, it will not qualify for the IRA credits. Nor will this vehicle have access to Tesla's supercharging network because Lucid has not announced anything with the NACS. So of course everyone is going to make the comparison to the Model S, and I think this one is fair. If we switch over, the entry Model S, $74,990, so a few $1,000s cheaper. Yes, 5 miles less range on the Model S, but that's pretty negligible. The Model S does 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds, while the Lucid Air Pure does it in 4.7 seconds. And the Model S is all-wheel drive and has access to the supercharger network, so not a great head-to-head comparison on the key metrics for Lucid. But look, not everybody wants a Tesla, so more options is always good. Clearly, Lucid is trying. They're doing what they can. I don't know if they're going to make it, but I'm hoping that they do. Elon did speak today at the International Astronautical Congress, and his part started around the 3-hour 45-minute mark. It'll be below if you want to check it out. I'm not gonna lie, seeing this one was pretty frustrating. It really just feels like Elon is being attacked from all angles, a lot of which is coming from some federal authorities and our government. Now we have the SEC investigating Elon to see if he violated security laws before he bought Twitter. They began this probe back in April 2022. His attorney said the SEC has already taken Elon's testimony multiple times, and this misguided investigation, enough is enough. Why is this one frustrating, you ask? Well, for all of the things for the SEC to spend its time on, think about all of the fraud in the crypto space, all of the fraud in our own government, all of the fraud on Wall Street. They're going to spend their time looking into Elon overpaying for Twitter. We'll see what comes of this, but either way, I think it's bogus. Don't forget, check out AG1 and linked below. Grab those freebies if you haven't already. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. You can find me on X, linked below. Please like the video if you did. Remember, no video for me tomorrow on Friday. I'll see you guys next week. And a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.